Hi, you all know me, Philip A. Pint. While doing your jobs, some of you never see me, and those of you who do see me only see me briefly, and not at every stage of my career. I am collected from a donor, transported subject to several tests, spun down, expressed, cross-matched, and packed for shipping before I finally make it to the bedside, where I realize my lifelong goal of helping someone live. But it is usually not just someone, because I'm a genuine multitasker, and I can end up helping up to 3 different patients. So for you to get a better understanding of where I come from and the process I go through before I arrive at the hospital, I am here now to narrate a special video presentation prepared just for you. Let's call it Blood Banking 101. The entire process often starts with a simple phone call. The Blood Alliance employs 18 dedicated telerecruiters working hard to make appointments for donors to visit our donor centers. We also have a qualified staff of donor consultants who contact local businesses, schools, churches, and other organizations who may want to host a blood drive using one of our 10 blood mobiles. Although for this video, we will be focusing on our donor centers. Where does it all begin? Well, when the donor arrives at one of our donor centers, a friendly receptionist greets the donor, checks their identification, assigns a donation number, and has the donor fill out the necessary paperwork. The donor is then taken to a private history booth where they are asked questions about their medical history, behavior patterns, and recent travels to ensure the blood donation is safe. Next, the donor receives a mini physical, including a check of their blood pressure, pulse, and iron levels to further ensure the safety of the donor prior to donation. Now it is time for actual donation of the blood, and the donor is seated in one of the comfortable donor beds. The collection process starts with the selection of a vein. The venipuncture site is cleaned, and then the collection needle is inserted. The blood flows through tubing into the collection bag. The actual donation process only takes about 5 to 10 minutes to complete. Before removing the needle, 5 blood collection tubes bearing the same reference number as the unit of blood are also collected. We'll hear more about these tubes later. When the donation is complete, the needle is removed and pressure is applied to stop the bleeding, and the penetrated area is wrapped for further protection. The donor is then offered a variety of refreshments. All donors are asked to remain for 10 minutes for observation to ensure they are feeling well following the donation. The average adult has approximately 10 pints of blood circulating through their veins, so in general, donating a pint doesn't present a problem. Following each donation, the unit is placed in an insulated container. A courier arrives at the donor center and picks up the collected blood and sample tubes and transports it all to the TBA laboratory at Deerwood Park. The couriers pick up blood from 12 fixed sites and multiple blood drives every day. Once the blood arrives at the TBA laboratory, a laboratory assistant checks off the units on a collection list and records the temperature of the cooler. If the temperature is not within acceptable range, the units must be discarded. This is why proper packing and handling of the insulated containers is of utmost importance. The blood is now broken down into 3 different components to make products available for patients with different needs. The instrument used to separate the blood into the different components is called a centrifuge. The laboratory assistant loads the centrifuge by placing the paired units on the opposite sides of the centrifuge rotor. Here we see a unit that has been hard spun. The red cells, being heavier than the liquid plasma, are forced to the bottom of the bag. The liquid remaining above the red cells is the plasma. The bag is placed in the expressor. The handle is released. The seal is broken and the plasma immediately begins to flow into one of the satellite bags. Talk about working under pressure. Woo! After all the plasma has been expressed, the tubing is clamped, then sealed and separated. The seal on the bag containing the Optisol additive is then broken, and this fluid flows into the red cells. In the next step, the laboratory assistant uses a barcode scanner to read the barcodes on the bag and print a product label which is affixed to the bag. The red cell products are then placed in a refrigerator, and the plasma products are frozen, boxed, and stored in a freezer. Thermostats maintain the temperature of the refrigerator at 1 to 6 degrees Celsius, and the temperature of the freezer is less than or equal to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Talk about chilling out. Woo! In situations where platelets are needed, the paired units are centrifuged at a lower speed. At this speed, the platelets remain suspended in the plasma portion of the blood. The bag containing the platelets will be placed on a device called a platelet rocker, which will gently disperse the clump and resuspend the platelet. In addition to the gentle agitation, the storage unit maintains the platelets at a temperature of 21 to 24 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, back on the other side of the component laboratory, another laboratory assistant is working with the tubes. For each donation, a red-capped, white-capped, pink-capped, and 2 purple-capped tubes are collected. The laboratory assistant creates a computer file of all tubes to be sent for testing by winding the barcodes on the red-capped tubes and transferring these tubes from the blue collection rack to the red shipping rack. As the shipping racks fill up, they are placed in special shipping boxes. The boxes hold 6 racks plus a bag of ice to prevent them from getting too warm during transit. At the end of the collection day, an independent courier service picks up the boxes of tubes and delivers them to the Florida Blood Services Laboratory in St. Petersburg, Florida, for testing. Okay. The blood is now on the shelf so the lab assistants can relax a little, but not the laboratory technologist. When a patient needs blood, whether it is for a knife wound, car accident, anemia, surgery, or whatever the need, the physician writes an order for a specified number of units to be cross-matched. The process is similar to a doctor writing a prescription for a drug. But there is one big difference. The physician is just ordering blood, but there are 8 basic types of blood: O positive, O negative, A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, and AB negative. Receiving the proper type is critical. Receiving the wrong type of blood can be catastrophic. It is up to the laboratory technologist to determine the patient's type and select the units that will be beneficial to the patient. If, after determining the patient's type, the laboratory technologist discovers that the patient's type is not available, they know which other types can be used as a substitute, if any. The blood is then typed and selected for transfusion through a tedious 3-stage process to ensure that the patient has been correctly typed. Once the units are tagged and ready to go, they are placed in the distribution refrigerator, where they will be assigned to a courier for delivery. A courier will check the counter for orders that have been filled and place the blood in an insulated container with ice. The ice keeps the blood between 39 and 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Then he will fill out his log sheet and head out the door. Several miles and a few turns later, the courier arrives at the hospital and delivers the blood to the lab. The lab staff then notifies the nursing staff that the blood for the patient is now available. The nursing staff sends a representative to the lab with a copy of the physician's order. At the lab, the staff member checks identification on the unit tag with the order and verifies that the unit number on the tag matches with the unit number of the blood bag. Only after determining that all the information matches is the blood released. At the bedside, these checks are repeated, this time checking the information on the order with the information on the bag and with the patient's armband. These clerical checks are of utmost importance. The majority of the transfusion errors come from failure to accurately identify the patient for whom the blood is intended, either at the time of the initial specimen collection or at the time the blood is hung. So at last, the blood begins to flow out of the bag, down the tubing, and into the patient's vein. At this point, your work is pretty much done, but not mine. I'll be circulating through the blood vessels of the patient doing what I do best, bringing oxygen to the cells, removing CO2, and aiding in the recovery of the patient. So there you have it. Now you know my life story. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the life of a blood drop. And remember, it takes all of us working together to get me where I need to be to do my job. Thank you all for helping me along the way.